Well, welcome to Linda Claire Puig. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Uh, Linda, you and I have known each other for a while. We're not really close associates, but we met each other through a workshop put on by Christian Michelson. I don't know how many years ago, many years
Many.
ago, 15, 16, 17. I don't know, many years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
Christian was my coach. He was doing a workshop, and he was dividing the group into pairs of people to talk about stuff to get to know each other. And what a powerful exercise. We shared about each other and we got to know each other in just that 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And we've always had that connection after just that one thing. So,
Interestingly, you may not know this, Robert, but prior to that, I was not that experienced in doing JV partnerships or any of that kind of stuff, and I had a dream team list of people that I just thought would be amazing to partner with at some point in my career. And I was
right.
so excited to see you there because you were, guess where?
On that
Top
list,
of my list.
you
And
never
I
called
remember,
me to be on your dream team.
yeah, it was like I was very intimidated at first, but then I met you and I was like, he's such a wonderful person. Like I don't have to think or feel or act any particular way. He's just a great guy.
Yeah, so you are on my list. I mean, I've had my list for more than 25 years. So
Uh-huh.
I had a lot of people on that list and I met a lot of people that way.
Yeah.
And you've gone on to do a lot of things. You've written books, you put on programs. You're really in the same industry as I am, self-employed professional, helping other small businesses market themselves and be more effective, make more money, all that kind of stuff. And you bring a particular spin to it. You're really smart. You have really practical things. So let me ask you the question, how are you an ordinary visionary?
This is this is such a strange question. You said you were going to ask it, and I'm like, what the heck am I going to say? Um, because I don't, I didn't at first think of myself as a visionary, but then as I looked back on my experience in the industry and my experience in business, I was like, okay, I guess I'll claim that. I started out
Yeah.
doing some done for you services, done for you newsletter services back in the day when there were print newsletters for all my
Wow.
clients. I know, right? What are those? Um, and I just, I grew into the world of online marketing kind of at first in fits and starts. I remember when I first started teaching about newsletters, I had to fess up that I myself had done a newsletter for 2 years very sporadically without a single mention of myself. It was all very institutional. And, just did everything wrong in terms of my own efforts at marketing. But,
Sure.
eventually I grew to a level of comfort and with the help of partners such as yourself, grew my business. And it became a place where people could go get articles that were already written and use as their own. Now with
All right.
ChatGPT, that's less important, but still for
Yeah,
some
really.
people, it's really. I eventually sold that business, so that's no longer mine. And then I reached a point where I had done my own traveling and running my business from abroad. I just it was always in my mind when I started my business that's one of the reasons I wanted to have an online business was for that reason. And the very first time that I tried that was 2007. And it was not, internet was in cafes, little internet cafes, and that's about it. There were not a lot of places, not a lot of Airbnbs. I don't even know if Airbnb was in existence. I don't think it was, but it was challenging, So I remember hanging my laptop over the canal in Venice just to get good Wi-Fi, So um,
Yeah.
it was interesting. But then in 2011, I did go and live in Italy for almost 6 months and had an amazing experience. Did a huge launch of a program of mine and really lived the life that I was saying that I wanted to live. And that may have been visionary too. I think it was a little bit ahead of the curve. There weren't such a thing as digital nomads back then.
You were one of the first.
I may have
Yeah,
been, but it got me really excited because I noticed that other people were excited about what I was doing.
yeah.
And so I started sort of veering a little bit more toward working with people who for whom that was interesting and exciting. And so I developed some programs to help people take their own business on the road. And I did
Wow.
some group programs that were geared to help people gear up their business so that they could take it on the road. So there were a variety of things. I did some summits with people who were already running their business from everywhere, but they were still few and far between. Anyway, uh, let's see. Fast forward to 2018. I actually took a sabbatical in 2016, an almost full sabbatical, and traveled just extensively. And then in
And hardly
2017,
worked at all.
hardly worked at all. My promise to myself was I will utilize every asset that I've created thus far, but I'm not creating anything new. I'm not, nothing new. Everything is just going to be based on what I've done before, utilizing that work. And it was
Right.
great. I mean, it was a transformative year for me. And then the following year, I thought for sure by the end of 2016 that I would be ready to go back to work, but I wasn't. So the following year, I mostly took off in my own hometown in Northern California and I just relaxed. And I think what I did was I rewired myself so that I can't overwork anymore. I just literally can't. Like I was one of these that would sometimes stay up all night just to get something done, and I'd leave projects to the very end, and you
I
know.
still do that, Linda.
But working at night is one thing. Like if you like to work at night and you're night owl, great. But staying
Yeah,
up all night because you have to, that's not great. And
really.
so anyway, so that was kind of a 2 year hiatus that I didn't know would end. I didn't know when it
So,
would end.
so you were kind of retired, but you hadn't said, "I am retired."
Yeah, correct.
Like
Yeah,
I did last year, almost a year ago. I
yeah,
said, "Okay, this is it. I ain't going
yeah,
back. I
yeah.
can support myself." But so what happened?
Well, what was
How did your
interesting,
mind sort of rearrange in that time and your
um,
priorities
yeah,
and then how did you emerge from that?
I emerged. I knew I had to keep telling myself, and I actually honestly had the deep down faith feeling, if you will, of I'm gonna something is gonna open up. The next thing that I am to spend my time on will appear, and I just need to be patient and wait. And it got
Yeah.
little bit nerve-wracking toward the end of 2017 because I thought, gosh, am I gonna have to become an Uber driver? Like when's it coming? Um, and
Right.
I had a serendipitous phone call with a friend, really an acquaintance at that time. We'd only ever seen each other a couple of times online, and we were having a conversation about traveling and running your business. And she told me about this very cool thing that she had done to go work with other digital nomads for a month at a time in cool places, but they were all in their 20s and she was in her 50s. And she said, I just really wish that I could, that we could do this for people our age. And as soon as she said that, I just like, brain explosion. And, you can imagine all the cartoons, all the clouds of explosion
I
happening.
know
That's
those brain
right.
explosions. I have them daily. I mean,
They're the
what a great
best.
idea. And sometimes
Yeah.
they happen, sometimes they don't.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
this one happened. We did it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I started doing in 2018. And it was my intention to kind of transition out of all of the business coaching and, you know, teaching people about newsletters and communications and whatnot. I was intending to transition out of that toward the end of 2019. Hello. And then happened this little pandemic thing and grounded the travel business. We went to some really cool places. We went to Rome and Bali and
N-
Lisbon
Now,
and
what did you do in
Prague.
those places?
We would take groups of entrepreneurs who were 40 and above, and who could work from anywhere or who hoped they could work from anywhere and just kind of needed a helping
So were they
hand.
mostly in the U.S. and then they went to
Yeah,
Bali with you for a
yeah.
week or something?
No, a month.
Oh, a month?
A
A whole
month?
friggin' month?
Yes.
So they
Yeah.
had enough resources to do that, yet they wanted, no, that very
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, we would arrange housing and co-working spaces and, get to know you kinds of tours. It wasn't really a tour. There were tours and one or two of them we provided, but for the most part, it's a co-created day, each day by day, right? So, I think I'm going to go into work today for a couple hours. Anybody else going? I think I want to go to this performance tonight or this restaurant tonight. Anyone else interested? And so you have this
Yeah,
community of people to experience the place with. You get to stay
yeah.
there long enough that you can really experience it. Start to get a taste of what it's like to live there. Really, a month isn't totally enough, but it's a lot better than it feels different than a vacation.
Yeah, and because you had done this, you were kind of modeling what you'd done. Here's
Yeah.
how you can do it. Now, did you do any classes and coaching with the group or stuff like that while you were doing it?
Yeah, we had weekly masterminds, and so that was really fun. They weren't always business focused, so anybody could do anything. Like one person told us um, how she packs for a whole month in a carry-on suitcase, So, um, but it was very like there were a lot of people learning different business things, and occasionally somebody in the group would do a little presentation if they happened to have an expertise in the area. And we would have potlucks on at least once a week, and at the potlucks we would have little mini presentations. And we're actually bumping up the business part of it for next year's trips. So
Oh, so
anyway,
you're continuing with this.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, we
And what do
had
you
a
call,
definite
what do you,
hiatus during the pandemic, but we're
yeah,
back at it. Last year we went
what,
to Croatia.
Croatia, no kidding.
Mhm.
What do you
Mhm.
call the entity?
Adventurous Life.
Adventurous Life.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And I'm sure people create lifelong friendships from that.
Oh,
I
they
mean,
do. There have been business
fantastic.
partnerships formed.
Oh, yeah.
We keep up with a lot of our past participants, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm staying at so and so's house in Florida now." So, lifelong friends. What was interesting during our very first trip, there were a lot of people saying how they finally felt like they found their community, their tribe, because they didn't have people around them that like to travel and like to travel for a long enough period of time that it's kind of important that you bring your business along with you. Some people can do a month-long vacation, but most of us business owners can't. So you just have a
Yeah.
vacation while you're doing your business.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And
so
then you
that
have
was,
people that you can talk to, and you're not just a stranger in a strange land
yeah,
completely. And that's
yeah.
a fantastic idea.
It was
Fantastic. Love
it
it.
it was and is fantastic. We had the best time in those first 2 years, 2018, 2019. Sydney, Australia was our very last trip. And we were there,
Wow.
we stayed along for the fireworks at New Year's Eve, right? New Year's Eve fireworks. They're always the first ones on the television shows and whatnot. Sydney fireworks going off, kicking
Right,
off
right.
the new year kind of thing. And it had been a bucket list experience for me for forever. And I remember standing there, experiencing this, watching the fireworks over the opera house, the Sydney Opera House, and just getting chills like, wow, I made this happen and I'm experiencing this thing that I've always wanted to. It was fantastic. And then we went over and spent a
Wow.
couple of extra weeks in New Zealand. So that was my very last travel before the pandemic happened. And then, that kind of grounded us for a while. But yeah, we're back.
How many of those trips did you do?
We've done 7 so far. 7.
Seven.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really innovative. But, it's funny when you come up with an idea that you put out there that really catches on. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of ideas we put out there that do not catch on so big, you know?
There's a
And
lot.
it's like I had a lot of big successes,
Mhm.
event after event, et cetera, et cetera. And The thing that happened to me is I kind of burned out of doing my 1 year program. So it was just like, total immersion for a year. So this thing of doing something for a month, and you get to relax. You're not working every minute, and
Well,
you're
I had
doing.
my own business that I was working on too. I still ran
Sure.
my newsletter business. I
Yeah.
actually sold that business in 2019. Yeah, beginning of 2019.
Oh, wow.
But I continued through the pandemic. I continued to work for the company that bought it I just ran the company. Just they were
Huh.
the titular owners.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Now they've taken it over completely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
My last year there, I
So
did a documentary. I don't know if you're familiar with the company Miracy. Uh,
vaguely familiar.
yeah.
What is it?
Anyway, Danny had a great idea at one point to do a documentary, and I took that idea and ran with it and completed it. It's a feature length documentary. And so that was the thing that I did the last year that I was working there. And it was
Did you have
during
any
that.
experience in movies, filming, documentaries, any of that?
Not really. But what I did have, like, I have a journalism background.
Okay,
So
that helps.
yeah, I had a lot of, interviewing people and putting things together to create a story arc and that sort of a thing. So I felt confident that I could do it, but I did have to learn a few new extra skills. I had, at one point, I had one of those crime scene walls, with all the things stuck up on the walls and the strings and
Papers.
the
This is
circled,
connected with
yeah.
that. So, what was the name of the documentary?
Teacher Gift, the
Teacher
movie.
Gift, and it was
Yeah.
about.
It was about online courses and the opportunities available for those who create online courses and a business focused on them. It was really cool because we had a group of experts that I interviewed, a group of people who had successfully created courses and focused their businesses around those courses and were doing it to great success. And then we had a group of 14 people who were just creating their first one. And so we went through them. We had them do a weekly diary, video diary entry, and discuss the ups and downs and ins and outs and doubts and fears and anxieties and all that stuff
Wow.
of creating your first one. Because, in my opinion, it was a strong. Um, what do I want to say? I was very insistent on including that kind of stuff in the documentary because to me, that's what people need to hear so that they understand that you get through those things and you figure it out and
Yeah,
people
it's
do
not
fail.
idealized. Oh, we did this and blah blah
Yeah,
blah. So easy.
yeah,
Yeah. So, is
yeah.
that available anywhere online?
I don't know. Danny used it in a launch, and I don't know if it's like freely available right now or if they're just using snippets of it. I'm not certain. If you want, I can maybe find a link.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, so if there's a link below, we found it. If there isn't, we
Right.
didn't find it. But okay. So very interesting.
So it was during that period of time when I had another one of those experiences of I know I'm supposed to do something else, but I don't know what. There was a part of me saying, I think I'm done with online business. Um,
Heaven
but
forbid.
apparently not. Yeah, I just feel like nothing was coming to me that sounded interesting, that sounded innovative, that sounded useful
Hmm.
and compelling, And then I talked with a friend, and again, I get ideas from existing places and then adapt them to what I know to
Sure.
be needed in the industry.
Yeah.
And so what I ended up coming up with was a virtual co-working experience and community. Because of all the travel that I've done and also the Adventurous Life travel, I'm very familiar with co-working spaces around the world. And I'm
Hmm.
also familiar with the experience of just working with one other person in the room or one other person on Zoom, right? Of there being there's a buzz that happens, especially in a co-working place with multiple people. There's just a buzz that happens when
Yeah.
people are working on their own thing quietly, but there's a feeling of, being part of this movement toward getting things done, toward
Yeah.
striving and achieving, right? And and in my own programs, I've always included what I used to call get it done days. My business is now called Get Stuff Done Buddy, and so we have Get Stuff Done days. But it's
Hmm.
always been an important part of my programs where, there's a whole day just to devoted to getting things done that is helped by the fact that there are other people also doing things and also hearing of what you're going to be doing. And so they're going to be hearing how you did. Did you stay on task? So, you,
So,
yeah,
so all kinds of things. You're writing things or setting up a website or working on a
whatever.
newsletter and,
Yeah.
anything to move things forward.
Well, the
Putting together
problem
a
is,
presentation, that kind of stuff, right?
yeah, move things forward is the key concept here because the problem is
Yeah.
that, and I'm sure anybody who's watching and listening has experienced this, and people have it to greater and lesser degrees. But the experience of knowing that you need to be doing something and you're not doing it, and you're not doing it for a variety of reasons, whatever the procrastination reasons are, fear, anxiety, I don't know what to do, whatever. Um, and overwhelm is often a factor where I just feel like I have so much to do that I freeze. And sometimes people just are, I mean, in this world that we're in, they're lonely, right? It's harder to get things done
Well, we're
if you're,
isolated.
yeah,
I'm so
we're
used to doing
isolated.
that. You're so used to doing that. It's not, I struggled with it the first few years of my business, and now it's like stuff just happens. It's not a big issue.
Yeah.
But so what's the structure of Get It Stuff Buddy? Is it a program that you join with a group
Yeah.
or
It's
is it an
it,
online thing or what is it?
it's Get Stuff Done Buddy is the name of the business. And what we do is offer a variety of sessions over the course of the week. And then once or twice a month, we'll have a whole day. But each of the sessions are anywhere from 60 minutes to 120. So 1 to 2 hours, some 90-minute sessions in there. And there are different types of sessions. And that's just to keep things interesting, right?
Yeah,
There's a focus flow that's 2 hours, and there's a productivity catalyst that's 90 minutes. And the productivity catalyst always starts with some different kind of exercise, sometimes breathing, sometimes we have a guy that leads Tai Chi, a little teeny tiny Tai Chi thing. I can't wait to find a laughter yoga person who can come on and have us all belly laugh for 5 minutes before we start our work, right? There's a session called Task Tackle, and those are, there are things that we all tend to put off or find challenging to do, and that might be money stuff, or that might be writing stuff, or that might be clutter and disorganization, or I should say, organizing stuff, right? So we have
right, right.
some sessions that are specifically devoted to that. Not that anybody can't come on and just do their own thing, but that's the idea is let's all work on money stuff. Let's all work on
So
writing stuff.
so how many sessions are there in a week?
I haven't counted lately. I think we have just shy of 20.
20?
Hmm.
And are you on all of them?
No.
That's a lot.
That's a
That's
lot of
four a
sessions.
day.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
when I first started out, I was on many of them, and boy, I got a lot of stuff done. Let me tell you. Yeah, there I have different people hosting. We have a page that shows our different hosts, and um, it's just the host's job is just simply to greet everyone and say, "What are you working on?" And people tell each other what they're working on, and then you head off and do
yeah.
your work, and then you check back in at the end and say how you did. And I mean, I cannot
Now
tell
is
you. I
this
knew it.
are you on Zoom and the Zoom camera's on the whole time when you're
Yeah,
there or
yeah, Yeah.
Okay, so you can see the other people and they're working away on whatever they're doing
It's the simplest idea in the world, honestly.
so
And
it's like getting together in a co-working space, but only virtual in a sense. So
yes,
you're working on your own stuff.
it's like
Listen,
having a gazillion accountability buddies, right? What's
it's,
happened,
I
there are
love this
people who,
idea. I love this idea.
yeah, I love it too. I
I
really
wish
do
I'd
love
had that idea. So, no, it's really good because I got kind of tired of teaching. Here I'm teaching. I'm the expert. I'm giving this stuff. And then I'd say, okay, now here's your assignment for this week. And then people work on their own. And sometimes they do well. And sometimes they do diddly squat, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, but you don't have an agenda of here's what you have to learn.
Yeah.
You have more principles and ideas and support and all that. Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. I
So
felt the same as
now
you.
is it just, but it's just, can you join, anyone can come in and join it, or is there a maximum or minimum number of people that can be in it?
No, there's not a maximum. I mean, maybe one day I'll hit, 1,000 people per session. We're not anywhere near that yet, and
Yeah.
so maybe there's a maximum, but right now there's no maximum, and there's no minimum either. Sometimes there are sessions with just one person on, you know,
Oh,
the
yeah.
yeah, summer is pretty sparse, but the people
Hmm.
who are going on a regular basis, we try to make it fun too, right? We're all about work, and people say, "Oh, you can't sell work, Linda." I'm not selling work. I'm selling getting stuff done, and I'm also selling fun while doing it. So we have challenges with fun prizes, and just stuff to just to make it a little more worth
Great.
your while to show up and get stuff done, right?
And people pay a monthly fee for this, I would assume,
Well, I
or
decided
they pay
I didn't want to do monthly fees, so I have an incredible annual fee, 197.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's less than $20 a month. So,
Yeah.
really. So that gives you some freedom. It's like, okay, and I don't have to decide every month whether I'm going to re-up or not. And
Yep.
you're just in it.
Yeah.
And I suppose some people are very active and some people are less active, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. That's the way
And
programs go. I keep reaching out to those that haven't started showing up on sessions yet, saying, "What can I do? How can I get you there?" But,
right.
everybody's got their own thing going on. One woman's mom just died and she's cleaning out her house, you know,
Oh,
which
yeah,
technically she could come on to a session and say, "That's what I'm doing today. I'm cleaning my mom's house." Right? You don't have
absolutely.
to be doing work things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, maybe
But
I
yeah,
should
so
join.
that's
Maybe I
that's
should
my
join this. I mean, really, it
we'd
would be
love to have you,
interesting
Robert.
because if you have a project, that kind of thing that you could check in here, there, and everywhere. And do you do any brainstorming or masterminding once in a while?
Not yet. There are about 4 or 5 ideas that are on the back burner right now while we just focus on growing membership. So,
Right.
but yeah, I think there's all kinds of fun things to do. And already people just naturally are connecting with each other, right? If they know
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
you're in the leadership space too. Oh, I'm in the leadership space too. Like maybe we can talk after the whatever. So, that happens naturally. I'm going to be doing some things to help make it more intentional, but that happens naturally already.
Right. Now there's a website to this, of course, right? And you sign up on the website, and then are there some resources on the website as well that they can download or use or stuff like that?
Um, right now, the resources are on hidden pages. We haven't put them all out. But if somebody wants to reach out to me, I'm very happy to send you our productivity wallpapers. Um, those are just fun things to put on your laptop or desktop that have some great, beautiful colors and great quotes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the sky's the limit, the kinds
Yeah.
of things you
Yeah,
could
it
do.
is.
It's one
It
of
is.
those things that you'd never run out of possibilities. Because it could all fit into the thing. Oh, let's do a series of videos and you put them behind your paywall and
Yeah.
something like that, or
You know,
downloadable how-tos or stuff like that.
absolutely. Oh, one of the other kinds of sessions that I forgot to mention that is one of the coolest, I think, you said videos and that made me think of it, is we have one session called the Creative Spark. And what that does is there's no real host per se, but there's an artist who's doing artwork and the camera is trained on the artist doing the artwork. And the idea is that you kind of tap into the creative focus of that person. And it's really like you half the time you're like, I don't want to work, I want to watch the artist. But if you really commit to doing your work and just peeking from time to time at the artist, there is like this natural creative focus that comes into you. I don't know how to say it. It sounds kind of funny.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, that's really different. I listen to, when I'm creating or writing, I listen to jazz
Mm.
of all kinds. So,
Mhm.
that sort of fuels me,
Yeah.
I'm not listening to it intently, but it's always there. But so it's almost like watching art happen. Is
Yeah. Yeah,
the
it is.
visual, the visual equivalent to that.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
And you know what else is fun? And this is just a personal thing, is that I have an artist inside me that I don't let out very often. And by being one of my artists on this session from time to time, it allows me to it's like gets me in a place where I have to do art, and it's so fun. It's so enjoyable.
Wow.
Yeah.
So people should definitely check this out. It's
Yeah.
just a fantastic idea. Uh, so now, amongst other things, I mean, I know
Mhm.
you've done so many things. You also wrote a book called Free. Tell us
Mhm.
about that.
Sure. It's actually my second book, but the first one I decided not to put on Amazon, so nobody knows about it anymore.
Okay.
That was called the Six Figure Newsletter, and the book Free. I can't remember the subtitle right off the bat. Um, Something about creating followers to have a adventurous life, something like that. So it's about
Right.
list building. Basically, it's about
Ah,
online list building. And when I started to write the book, I just didn't want to write another list building book or another online business book. I don't know, I just think that's too boring. It's boring for me to write, it's boring for the reader to read, in my opinion.
right.
Maybe that's just me. But I decided instead to build in different stories from my travels, from my experience living this life. And the cover of it shows me on the steps in Rome in front of this big cathedral. And it's really about what a it's the end point. We're always taught in marketing, right? To talk about what things get you, the benefit of the benefit, or the benefit of the benefit of the benefit.
Right.
And so that's really what it is. It's like all of this effort that people put into building an online business, to creating an audience that you can sell your things to. All of the effort is to do one of several things. And it's usually either to have a life of freedom where I can choose when and where and how I go, or to, what you're doing right now, leave a legacy, to create something that really affects other people and might continue to do so after I'm either out of it or gone.
Out of it. Part of life we dread if that happens. But
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So good. Now, I have not read that book. I'm beating myself up about that right now. I'm going to get it. I want to read it.
Cool.
Um, yeah, I'm sure it's great. And, attaching it to stories is such a good idea because, I just read a newsletter of one of my past clients
Mhm.
this morning, and it was a story about how he pitched a job to a client and how he priced it, but it was
Mhm.
like a little drama, this happened, then what's going to happen next, and then this, and
Yeah.
it was so much more interesting than here's a principle and here's a principle and here's a principle, and that goes in one ear and out the other.
It's so much more interesting.
Oh yeah.
I'm in some circles, I'm kind of known for a story that I used to teach about creating a newsletter or creating an online business. And it was about driving down some stairs in Italy, like literally driving down some stairs. I know, it's crazy.
In a
And it was
car or a bicycle?
in a car.
I've seen that in movies.
I know. It was the wildest thing, and it was really scary at the time. But the story held all the drama that you're talking about. You know,
Yeah.
the road that I was on just got narrower and narrower to the point where I had to pull in my car windows, the rear view mirrors, and there was like literally an inch between my car and the walls. It was just the scariest thing, and I didn't feel like I could back up. You know, at that point, I just kept thinking, oh, it's going to open up. It's going to open up. And it didn't open up. It stopped. It literally just ended. And the only thing that I could see was maybe squeak through these concrete pillars and drive down that set of steps there if I can make the turn, you know. So it was crazy.
You could
But
have been wedged in between there, like the movie Man from Uncle, where they get
I mean,
wedged between
you can't
something.
even get out, right? How
Oh
could
my
you
God.
even you can't get out the window even. It was,
You have to
and plus
open
I
the roof
had
with a can opener.
no, yeah. And it was siesta time, so like nobody was out on the streets. And my mom was in the car too with her friend. It was
Oh,
just
you weren't alone. No, that must have been even more fun. Oh my God, what are you doing? Oh, no, 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 no.
so anyway, just the point
Yeah,
is that I do agree with you that personal stories, especially as you use them to make business points or points in whatever area your area of expertise is or that you're in business in, like there
yeah,
that's just where it's at. And
yeah.
I've recently remembered that. I think I went through a period of kind of a dry period, um, and I just have recently begun doing that again, and it's so much fun. um, I think I told you I was driving from Vancouver Island down to Texas, where I happen to be. I'm at my mom's right now, and I've been writing about that and sharing the experience and the pictures and and then making some points that are salient for my audience. So it's just, I think it's the best.
So, as I said before we started, the the other thing I wanted you to share
Uh-huh.
is some great tips, insights, and wisdom for running and marketing a business as a self-employed person. You're the prototypical self-employed person, but also teaches people like I've done through my career. And so we'll say number one is tell stories. I mean,
Yes.
it's just a really powerful strategy. Some people say, well, I don't have any stories, but you dig a little deeper and say, well, what was a success? What was something that you did with a client? That's all. There's a lot of stories in there. I worked with a client who was struggling with this, and we did this, and we looked here, and we did, and it's interesting.
I think
There's-
that was one of the hardest things for me to do was to really open up and be personal. I'm an introvert and a private person, and it's just like as I told you, I was nowhere in any of my newsletters because I was just like, it's not me, it's not me.
yeah,
But
yeah,
once I made that shift, I recognize it in a couple of ways. First of all, it's interesting, so it's effective. Second of all, um, I don't know, it's generous. Like there's a generosity to it. You share your spirit, you share your life, and we have a gazillion examples of that these days with social media. I don't happen to be big on social media. It's just not my thing. I'm going to try to make myself do some of it soon, but in the past,
yeah. Me neither. I did a lot of social media, and they said it really isn't getting me anything. My newsletter's
yeah,
what works. So yeah,
yeah, same. Um, but I do think that there's still, even if you're not doing social media, there's still a place for opening up your life. And it doesn't have to be like everything, but just enough to let people in and see who you are and what you're all about. So yeah, tell stories.
Yeah,
Don't need to
absolutely.
belabor
Are
that.
you familiar with Substack?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole newsletter platform that people are using
Mhm.
for all kinds of things like that, and
Yeah. It's
very
enabling journalists
personal.
to actually make money. It's
Oh,
nice.
yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking of switching to Substack, switching my newsletter there. But anyway, that's,
Yeah.
what platforms you use and stuff like that is a whole other thing.
Right.
Okay. So, next piece of wisdom from
Piece of
your brilliant
stuff.
mind of what you would really emphasize for people that want to have success in their small business.
Well, there are two things that I can think of. One is pay attention to the urges, the impulses, the intuition, the gut feelings. Um, you just would be surprised at how right they are. And they're not always right, right? But there's something, there's a knowing that you have somewhere. I don't know if it's in your belly or in your heart, whatever. There's just a knowing, and like buy into that, value that, trust that.
Yeah,
And I also think that there's like I have a friend who is an incredible writer, incredible, and actually I have two friends, and they've been working on their books for years and years. And I understand all of that that's there, but I think what I've learned, I'm kind of a long ago recovered perfectionist. When I very first started my business, there was a mistake that happened in one of the print newsletters that I sent out, and it just like killed me. It was just a silly
really
little mistake that was easily fixed, but it killed me. And so I'm done with all that. That doesn't bother me anymore. Um,
good.
so, so I think that done is better than anything,
So
and
you're
that was
saying not chasing perfectionism.
just get it out there. That's and
Yeah,
there's little remnants for me. Like I wanted to have the business that I have now, Get Stuff Done, Buddy. I wanted it to be absolutely perfect with all the different bells and whistles that are going to be at, like all of it done before
yeah. Good
before
luck.
yeah. And I forced myself to say, no, this is phase one, this is phase two, this is phase three. So yeah,
Yeah,
done is better than anything.
yeah. It was the same starting this podcast. I got the basic things together. I got on Riverside to record it.
Hmm.
I said, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's just start.
Hmm.
A few months later, I have 40 interviews.
Yeah.
So I want to dig more deeply into both those things because I
Hmm.
think it's worth highlighting them. One is the second one is just get stuff done imperfectly. The other, follow the urges, I think is interesting because a lot of people will say to me, "Well, I've had an idea for a long time. How long? 10 years, whatever. How come you never did anything on it?" Well, I wasn't sure about it, and da da da, whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
So, um, I've always been one to follow my urges, definitely. I mean, you get an idea. I mean, just doing a newsletter. How I started my newsletter was someone else had done one. I had a couple clients that did one. I said, well, I should do that. And that's like the next week I started my newsletter. Or someone said, oh, you got to learn how to design websites. And I said, oh, that sounds hard. He says, it's not hard. Here's a book. Here's what to do. And I bought this book. And, a week later I had a website. And then I was developing them the next week. So but it has to be, there's, what do you say, urges or not just inspirations, but gee, I'd really like to do that. If I don't, it's almost like if I don't do that, then it's like I've hit a wall
It's like
and
there's an
it's,
inner yes or something.
yes,
Like
yeah,
this is a good way to make decisions too. Sometimes decisions feel like you're just going back and forth between, whatever's. before you can make a decision. Um, and then and then other times, you just know, like a decision, you just know. It's
Yeah.
like I find it a little challenging to articulate, but I think that most people have had the experience of, you know, this is a decision, but there's a deeper decision somewhere that's just this knowing place. And so
Yeah.
just paying attention to those and waiting for those, and the part about urges is it's like all you have to do is be aware of them. So if this is
Yeah.
kind of like a new concept or whatever, this is just like just start being aware of being drawn to something. Doesn't have to be urgent, but it is an urge. You're drawn to something, and pay attention to those. And sometimes they come, boom, just as fast and direct as can be, and other times they kind of like creep up a little bit and sneak up
Right,
on you.
right, right. Yeah, there's no perfect way, right?
Yeah.
But when the urge comes,
Act,
and what was that?
act.
Act, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Any little action, any little action.
yeah, sometimes, I'll think of something and then I'll muse about it a lot, just sort of toss it around in my mind space, so to think, and then sort of start to see a plan kind of emerging. But you know what I do these days is an idea, I go to ChatGTP and ask a question. And
You
like in
ask.
10 minutes, I have a 10-page article on it. Really. And then I take that, and when I thought of ordinary visionaries,
Mhm.
I started to explore that idea in ChatGTP, and it created a whole plan and
Mhm.
et cetera. And then it just sort of blossomed from there.
Yeah.
So often it's hard to know, well, what do I do? And we feel kind of limited, but we've always had access to information for a long time through the internet, just like that. But ChatGTP helps you organize those ideas. I don't know if you use it like that, but for
I
me, it's
do.
like,
I
yeah,
resisted for the longest time, and then
yeah,
finally I said, "Well, let me just try this." And
yeah.
now, as my friend says, I want to marry it.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily about creating completed prose, although that can sometimes work for certain things. But I created a little report called ChatGTP is the ultimate thinking tool because it really helps you think and clarify ideas. And I did one last night that was really funny. I said to ChatGTP, you've know all the content and all the questions I've asked on ChatGTP. Please summarize those and then give me your humorous um, take on all of those things and
Oh, what a great idea.
make
Uh-huh.
fun of them. And it was some of the funniest stuff I'd ever got. It really poked fun at my ideas.
Oh, that's
What I
really
went,
funny.
oh God, because sometimes we fall in love with an idea that's a sucky idea.
Yeah, yeah.
And so if you ask it, poke fun at that idea, poke holes in it, because
Mm.
often it will say, oh, this is wonderful and this is what you could do with it. It really supports your
Mhm.
creation, but
Mhm.
sometimes that's not very objective. So anyway, there's so many things we
It's
haven't
so
even touched.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, it really is. It's a starter. That's I think the best way to describe how I best use it, how I think it's best used, at least in our industry, is as a starter. I use it to start emails. And
right.
it's like, God, just versus staring at a blank screen, having something
Yeah,
to start with is makes everything so much easier. Or starting, like if you have an idea for a product, you start there, you start um, refining it. It doesn't mean that, at least at this point, it doesn't mean that we're, losing our thinking abilities. To me, it makes my thinking higher level, right? I'm
yeah,
refining, I'm evaluating. I asked it to come up with a gazillion lists of good freebie ideas. So
Yeah.
I have to go through those, knowing my audience and having the experience that I do and say, yeah, that would work and that would work. Like out of 40, I might find three that are interesting. And I do that by my thinking, not its thinking, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I've also found a way to really save myself time on these interviews.
oh,
I have a thing. There's a thing called Otter AI, which
mhm,
transcribes
mhm,
audio and videos.
mhm.
So I take this recording, have Otter AI transcribe it, then I pop it into ChatGPT and say, please give me a 200 word summary of
I
this.
love it.
And
Yeah.
I used to have to, and summarizing it and doing that was hard. It took a lot of time. And
Yeah.
now it writes it, and then I do a little fine-tuned editing, and it
Right.
saves me
Right.
time.
Right.
And then I had a meeting with the guy the other day, an old friend. I said, now I'm free to have more conversations. I don't have to spend an hour or two writing these 3 paragraphs.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
just done for you.
Yeah.
So I think realize, we don't yet as a society see the incredible thing. It's not that I think it will give more work because I can do more creative things and talking to people and all of that kind of stuff instead of doing a lot of grunt work of
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
So
I
I
agree.
just
I'm a
can't.
convert.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about um, just going into action. I mean, ChatGTP can help you with that. It can create action plans and step by step. They can do all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But what I always found the most frustrating and fascinating is how people stop themselves from taking action.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've
Mm.
done any coaching, you know that that's a reality.
It's a
And
really, it's a really disheartening reality, not only for
yeah,
the person who's stopping, but also for the person who's trying to help you grow or whatever, right? That it's just disheartening in all ways. And it just drove me crazy when people would sign up with enthusiasm for my programs and go to the first couple and then, for whatever reason, stop coming. And
disappear. Yeah. I
yeah,
did that for programs that cost a lot of money and they didn't. And I always felt, because I'd turn my self inside out to help people. But, if they
yeah.
didn't show up and they weren't doing the work, and they say, well, we have something else that's more important right now, and blah, blah, blah. So, anyway, but,
But the problem is
um,
that when that happens, like there's a negative cycle that starts. So sometimes people decide a program's not for them, the refund period is over, whatever, right? That kind of stuff happens. But
yep,
for the others, whether it's a program that you're in, whether it's tasks that you have to do just in your business, like when you're not doing those, there's a stasis that gets locked in and
yeah.
that doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve the people that you serve. And so
Hurts your self
this
esteem.
yeah, oh God, that's the cycle. It just more than one of those pile up, and it's like you start making decisions about yourself and who you are and what you can and
Yeah.
can't do, and it's nasty.
And, certain people have that pattern. They're chronic procrastinators, chronic
Mhm.
underachievers. And it's not that they're not smart. Maybe that was something that happened in school and they didn't like homework. Who knows why it happens?
Yeah.
And you and I have experienced as well. We've all hit blocks and somehow we figured out tools.
And
You know,
the thing for everybody is going to be a little bit different. The motivation to actually start breaking out of
yes.
that is going to be different for everybody. I'm thinking right now of the very first person who signed up for Get Stuff Done Buddy and where she is now versus where she was when she first signed up. She's like, I wasn't getting anything done. She's a resume writer. I wasn't getting anything done. And so, people weren't really calling. I would just kind of wander around the house all day. I'd watch TV. I'd go play in the garden. Like I literally wasn't getting anything done. Every once in a while, I'd have a deadline and I'd procrastinate on that for at least 4 or 5 days. And then the procrastination would drive me crazy. So I'd sit down and do it and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Just like,
Yeah.
and now she shows up to almost every session and she's very clear on what she's doing. She has her weekends free again because she's not having to dribble work over into the weekends. Um,
Yeah.
like things have really turned around in her just from doing what she knew she needed to be doing. And her
Yeah.
confidence is up. She has more people calling her. This has happened just in a few months. It's
Yeah.
it's
Well,
yeah.
when you move into action, shit happens. If you move into
As does
something's going to
she.
happen. You reach out. Oh, this is somebody I'm avoiding reaching out. Well, just call them. Okay, but okay, fine, I will. I'll figure it out, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. But you with your Get Stuff Bunny. You think this was a commercial for you, but
Yeah. No, sorry.
it's no, not. Don't be sorry, because I really, really endorse this idea that having that support when you need it, and you can check in so many times a week. It's like, I'm stuck here, and this will give me some ideas. Can really now. Even some people will sign up for Get Stuff Done Buddy, and then they won't attend. They
Yeah, I know.
whatever. Sometimes I had one client that, I tell you, she just couldn't move forward. She was stopped by everything. So, but that's unusual that people are that stuck.
Yeah,
Did you ever
usually
hear the? Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say usually it's one thing or another. It's the isolation that really gets people. It's the
Shh.
I
My
love
dog
it.
just came in. Hello, doggy.
Hi, pup.
Quiet, okay? Quiet.
Mine's snoozing on the couch. Um, yeah, it's just it fills a lot of it fills the need for people in various different ways. For some people, it's the isolation. For others, it's one of our members said, I can be so much more accountable to other people than I can to myself. And
Yes.
I was just saying that for different people, the virtual co-working works for different reasons. For some people, it's just that they're not by themselves anymore, right? And for
Yeah.
other people, it's like making a promise or a statement to other people is the hook that they need. The public shame of not completing something that they said they would complete or whatever, right? So it works for different people differently and based on their inner dynamics and what's important to them and whatnot. But
Yeah. Well, I think it's really brilliant. Are you familiar with the work of Byron Katie?
hmm
I found that a very useful tool for me and for some of my clients. It's like, we believe our thoughts, and if our thoughts are
yeah,
saying, I can't do this, then we
yeah,
can't. And if
yeah,
we start to question our thoughts, that maybe that's not true, that I can't do this, it's just a thought
right,
I have, that it
right.
opens up new possibilities.
That's
Or it
good. I
has
like
to
it.
be this way, or I should do this, or
Mhm.
uh, all of those things keep us, as you say, sort of churning around inside, but never moving forward.
Yeah,
And it starts with our thinking. But when you get together with a group, that all sort of opens up things as well. It's like, well, what's next, or what are you doing? And we're not stuck inside our own individual mind behind a
yeah,
computer, and we're just by ourselves.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I see that this idea is going to really explode, Linda. Other people are going to take this on. I mean, corporations could do this for their virtual employees. A whole thing to
yeah,
check in and get
yeah,
supported, and all kinds of ways, because
yeah.
some people don't do well with isolation. I do really well with isolation. No
Me
problem.
too. Me too.
I like the quiet, and some music, and okay, what am I going to come up with today? No problem. But some people, they'll, like your person you talked about, they can't get on track and do any work.
Yeah. I had to be honest with myself. I was like the perfect candidate for this
Ah,
too.
yeah,
Because yeah, I can work in isolation, but I can also goof off, and
sure.
having the structure of sessions that I can show up for has, even though it's my business, it's still, I still attend most of them, and it's great. It's
20 a
just,
week?
no, I don't attend that many, but a lot, a lot. It's really surprising. Yeah, I'm getting a lot more done.
Wow, fantastic.
It was interesting because when I first had the notion to do this, I part of the input, there's a lot of different things that are happening in the environment that feed into an aha. And one of the things that fed into my aha about this was that there are lots of other coaches that I am aware of that will do, they might do a weekly office hours, or they might do a co-working session, but it's like just one a week, or some even do one co-working session a day. That's unusual. And then others have tried to match up their program attendees, their students. They've tried to match them up with accountability buddies, and other people have tried to reach out for accountability buddies. Like, it's in the air for
Sure.
sure. I just felt like there wasn't enough of it. Accountability buddies
Yeah.
can flake on you.
Oh,
Even
yeah.
if you have a group, they can flake on you.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. It just seemed like there was a place for this at a on steroids scale.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the most brilliant ideas I have ever
Well, thank
heard.
you,
It
Robert.
really is, and really needed. It's like
Yes.
really, really, really needed.
Yes.
Because, human beings do better, generally speaking, not in isolation. It's bouncing off ideas and working together. And so, so you're combining the independence with the
Mhm.
connection. And I think
It's
that's a
so
winning
interesting how
formula.
it's somewhat similar to what we do when we do our trips, our adventurous life trips, because
Yeah,
everybody's working on their own thing there. We're not. It's not a retreat where we're taking people through a curriculum or a
right,
process or
right.
anything like that. So there must be something in my life that's like, hey, everybody work on your own thing. Actually, you know what? I thought about that when my son was first a newborn. I was in a brand new place. I was in Los Angeles. I didn't know anybody. Just lived with my husband, and I knew these women from birthing class, right? And I was so desperate for a community, but I also had work that I was still doing, and so I remember trying to get together. This was an in-person thing where we would share childcare and each work on our own things. Like, that was back in my psyche 32 years ago. It wasn't nearly as, easy to do something like that back then, but it is a
Right.
kind of
We didn't have
interesting that,
Zoom.
yeah. Yeah, we didn't have Zoom. We barely had laptops.
Right,
We
right.
didn't have laptops.
No.
Crazy.
So, Linda, thank you so much for taking time to share what you're up to, the things you've come up to, and giving people some real inspiration. And not only that, a fantastic tool that some of them might want to check out. It's,
Thanks. I appreciate
it's.
it. I always love talking to you, Robert.
Thank you. I look forward to maybe some future connections for
That sounds
sure.
good. That sounds good.